You probably don't realize it, but fear might be running your entire life. Not the big, dramatic kind of fear. Not the horror movie, monster under the bed kind. No, I'm talking about the quiet kind. The fear that whispers in your head when you're about to speak up and don't. The fear that stops you from applying for that job, telling someone how you really feel, or just being your full self. It's invisible, but powerful. Like a hand around your throat, but gentler. So gentle you start to believe it's not there. Here's the scary part. Most of us live our whole lives never realizing how much fear is in control. We think we're making rational choices, being responsible, playing it safe, but underneath all that logic, there's usually fear pulling the strings. Psychologists have spent decades studying how fear affects us, and the truth is, it starts early, it grows quietly, and if we don't learn how to recognize it, it can shape every decision we make. So in this video, we're going to uncover why fear controls your life and how to finally break free. Because once you see the pattern, you can choose something else. Let's begin where it all starts. Fear begins early, not in adulthood, not in our teenage years, but right in our childhood, when we're most vulnerable and impressionable. Think back. Maybe you were just 5 years old and tried to speak up at the dinner table. Maybe someone laughed, or maybe you got ignored. That moment, to a 5-year-old, doesn't feel like a small thing. It feels like danger, rejection, embarrassment. And then your brain quietly takes note. Speaking up is not safe. This is how fear gets installed, like invisible software. You try something, you feel unsafe, and instead of learning, you freeze. You internalize a false message. I shouldn't do that again. Maybe you were punished for crying, or ridiculed for showing emotion, or made to feel small when you failed. These experiences, even if unintentional, teach your nervous system one major lesson. Play it safe. Don't be too much. Don't get too close. Don't speak your truth. And this is where the seeds of fear start growing. Not as conscious thoughts, but as automatic reactions. The kind that show up later in life when you're offered a promotion, or when someone gets too close emotionally. You say no, but it's not really you saying no. It's fear talking through you. Now here's the twist, and this might shock you. Fear can actually feel safe. Sounds strange, right? But think about it. If you've lived your life avoiding risk, then fear becomes familiar. And in the human brain, familiar equals safe. Fear protects us from the unknown. From embarrassment, from disappointment. It gives us the illusion of control. You might not be happy staying in your comfort zone, but at least you know the rules there. You won't be surprised. You won't fail. And so, without realizing it, you start craving fear, not consciously, not in a masochistic way, but biologically. You avoid asking your boss for a raise, and it feels relieving. You stay quiet in a room full of people, and it feels like protection. You cancel plans to avoid potential rejection, and it feels safe. Fear becomes your drug. And the worst part is, you don't even notice you're using it. Now, let's get real for a moment. Most of us think we're making our own decisions. We like to believe we're rational, independent, in control. But the truth, fear is making more of your choices than you realize. And it doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Fear doesn't walk into the room wearing a name tag saying, "Hi, I'm anxiety and I'm running your life." No, it's subtle. It hides behind logic. It whispers through your what-if thoughts. It wears disguises like being responsible, playing it safe, or not making a scene. Let's walk through a few common but sneaky ways fear shapes our lives without us even noticing. 1. Fear disguised as common sense. Have you ever had a dream or an idea, something that really excited you? And within seconds, your brain shut it down with, "That's not realistic." What if I fail? Now's not the right time. That's not wisdom talking. That's fear in a business suit pretending to be logic. We label it being smart, but often we're just afraid of disappointment, rejection, or looking foolish. So we kill the idea before it even has a chance to live. Fear doesn't need to scream. A whisper is enough. 2. Fear chooses your job, relationships, and routine. So many of us are in jobs we hate, relationships that feel flat, or routines that drain us. Not because we want to be, but because we're afraid of the unknown. Afraid to quit because, what if I can't find something better? Afraid to speak up because, what if I rock the boat? Afraid to leave because, what if I end up alone? So we stay, we shrink, we settle. We call it stability. But often, it's fear wearing the mask of comfort. 3. Fear makes you say yes when you mean no. You know that moment when someone asks you for something and every part of your body wants to say no, but your mouth says sure? That's fear. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of being seen as difficult. Fear of conflict or disapproval. People-pleasing isn't kindness. It's often fear in disguise. And every time we say yes when we mean no, we teach our nervous system that our comfort, peace, and energy are less important than avoiding awkwardness. 4. Fear stops you from being seen. Did you ever hold back your opinion in a group? Ever stay quiet instead of sharing your idea? Ever avoid posting something you care about online? That's fear controlling your self-expression. Fear tells you, they might think you're weird. You're not good enough. Keep your head down. And here's the sad part. The more you obey those messages, the more you lose touch with your true voice. You slowly become a watered-down version of yourself. Palatable, acceptable, invisible. 5. Fear controls your future by repeating your past. This one is deep. If something hurt you before, a rejection, a failure, a betrayal, your brain builds a mental shortcut. Avoid that. It was painful. The problem? That shortcut becomes your decision-making GPS. You start avoiding anything that even slightly resembles the past pain. You don't date again. You don't try again. You don't speak up again. You don't grow. Not because you can't, but because fear locked the door. But here's what psychology shows us. Growth and fear often live in the same place. Wherever you feel fear, there's usually something meaningful on the other side. 6. Fear creates an illusion of safety. One of the most dangerous things fear does is create a sense of false security. It convinces you that staying small, avoiding risk, keeping quiet, and following the rules will keep you safe. But the cost: dreams never pursued, words never spoken, a life half lived. You don't just avoid danger, you avoid living. The truth is, fear is not the enemy, it's a signal. But when we don't recognize its voice, when we let it speak for us without realizing it, it becomes the quiet puppeteer pulling the strings behind our lives. It decides who you date, where you live, what dreams you chase, and which ones you bury, who you allow yourself to become. The tragedy is not that we're afraid. That's human. The tragedy is that we often don't even know fear is in the driver's seat. And here's the truth that changes everything. You can feel fear and still choose differently. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself before any big decision. If I weren't afraid, what would I do? Let that question sit. Let it stir something in you. Write the answer down. Because whatever you write, that's the life fear is keeping you from. That's the version of you waiting just beyond your comfort zone. In the next section, we'll describe how to loosen fear's control, shift your relationship to it, and start choosing from clarity, not from fear. Because the goal isn't to become fearless. The goal is to become free. Let's break down, how do we actually break free from fear? First, you need to recognize the voice of fear. It often sounds like, I'm not ready. I don't want to get hurt. What if they think I'm stupid? I'll do it when I have more experience. Start labeling that voice when it speaks. Name it. That's fear talking. Second, stop negotiating with fear. Don't try to reason with it. Don't argue. Don't give it a seat at the table. Acknowledge it and move anyway. Fear shrinks in the presence of action. Third, take tiny steps. You don't have to leap. Just take one uncomfortable action today. Speak up in a meeting. Send that message. Try something you usually avoid. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward with fear. Fourth, surround yourself with people who normalize boldness. Fear thrives in isolation, but courage multiplies in community. And fifth, Remember that fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal. It usually points to the thing you care about most. You don't feel fear in areas that don't matter. You feel fear in areas where something could grow. Okay, we've unpacked how fear gets into our system. We've seen how it quietly shapes our choices. But now comes the part that actually changes lives. How to build real courage, day by day, from the inside out. Here's the good news. Courage isn't something you're born with. It's not a personality trait. It's more like a skill, and skills can be learned, practiced, and strengthened. So here are 6 powerful, science-backed exercises you can start doing right now to retrain your brain, loosen fear's grip, and start building a more courageous life, one step at a time. 1. The Daily Discomfort Challenge. Pick one small thing every day that makes you uncomfortable and do it. That's it. It could be making eye contact with a stranger, speaking your opinion in a meeting, posting something vulnerable on social media, saying no without explaining yourself. The point here is not to be fearless. It's to get used to the feeling of discomfort and act anyway. Your nervous system will scream at first, but each time you survive the discomfort, your brain records a new message. This didn't kill me, I can do it again. Start with small wins. Small reps build big muscles, including your courage muscle. 2. The Fear List and Action Plan. Take out a pen. Yes, now. Make a list of 10 things you're currently avoiding because of fear. These could be things like having a hard conversation, asking someone out, applying for a job you want, setting a boundary, telling your truth. Once you've got your list, choose one fear. Now break it down into the smallest possible next step, not the whole mountain, just the first step. For example, fear public speaking. First step, record a 60-second video of yourself talking and don't delete it. Each micro-action weakens the power fear holds. You start to realize, fear is just a wall of fog. It looks solid, but you can walk right through it. 3. Visualize your bold self. Here's the thing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So when you imagine yourself doing something courageous, your brain creates the same neural pathways it would if you actually did it. Take 2 minutes a day to visualize. You speaking confidently, you setting that boundary, you taking action even while scared. Close your eyes, breathe slow, see it, feel it. Hear yourself succeed. Let your nervous system get familiar with success, not just failure. Over time, this rewires your mental blueprint. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids and start seeing yourself as someone who shows up. 4. Rewrite the what-if story. Fear loves the question, what if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I get rejected? That question becomes a broken record that plays in your head every time you're about to step out of your comfort zone. So here's the practice. Flip the question. Ask, what if it goes right? What if this changes everything? What if I'm more capable than I thought? At first, it might feel fake or cheesy, but the more you do it, the more you build a new pattern of expectation. You train your mind to anticipate growth, not catastrophe. 5th practice, courage breathing. Fear lives in the body, and sometimes, no matter how much mindset work you do, your nervous system still panics. So you need a tool that bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the body. And that's your breath. Here's a simple breathing pattern that helps deactivate fear. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 to 8 seconds. Repeat for 1 to 3 minutes. Do this before a big conversation, before speaking up, or when you feel overwhelmed. It tells your body, I'm safe, I can handle this. You don't need to feel courageous to act with courage. You just need to calm your system enough to take the first step. 6. Build a courage crew. Fear thrives in silence. It grows stronger when you keep it hidden. That's why building a support system, even just one trusted person, is crucial. Share your fears. Speak them out loud. Tell someone your plan to take action and let them check in with you. Accountability isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When someone sees you, supports you, and holds space for your courage, it becomes real. You no longer feel like you're facing fear alone, and sometimes that's all it takes. 7. Celebrate every win, even the tiny ones. Every time you face fear and do something uncomfortable, celebrate it. Your brain needs to associate courage with reward, not punishment. So give yourself a fist pump, a high five in the mirror, a favorite treat, or just a "yes, I can do it" under your breath. Reinforce the message, I am someone who does hard things. Building courage is not about becoming fearless. It's about learning to take action, even when fear is sitting in the front row, yelling at you. And every time you do, your world gets just a little bigger. Not because the fear disappears, but because you grow larger than the fear. And that's how you change your life. Not all at once, but one small act of bravery at a time. So, what does life look like when fear no longer controls you? You become free, not in the cliché way, but in the quiet, real way. You speak your truth without rehearsing it. You walk into rooms without shrinking yourself. You take chances, not because you're fearless, but because you've made peace with being scared and doing it anyway. You stop living to avoid pain and start living to pursue meaning. Fear will always be there, like background noise. But you no longer turn up the volume. You've learned to listen to something stronger. Your values, your vision, your truth. If this video helped you see fear in a new light, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs it. Like it, drop a comment, and tell us, what's one fear you're committed to facing this week? And remember, fear is a story, courage is a choice, and the life you're meant to live is always on the other side of fear. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.